Hi, everyone. Before we begin, I'll share a couple of procedural things. You will notice that the chat function has been disabled, but you'll have access to the Q&A function throughout the webinar. You can use the Q&A function to pose questions to our speaker, and she will both answer your questions during the webinar and also carve out some time at the end to answer any questions you may have. You can also use that if you run into any tech difficulties to contact me or Jason to help you troubleshoot any issues that might come up. You'll also find that there's a survey at the end of the webinar. Please use the QR code on the screen or follow the link that will be posted in the chat to let us know how you like this webinar and what you'd like to see from future webinars. You'll also notice that this webinar is being recorded and it will be posted to Ava's YouTube channel, which means you can revisit and share this webinar and any of our past webinars at any point. Once I conclude the introduction, I will share a link to our webinars in the chat and you can visit it there. Without further ado, welcome to the Alliance Against Violence and Adversity's webinar series. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Yursich. With the Alliance Against Violence and Adversity, I'm an early career researcher and lead on the webinar series alongside my amazing colleagues. I'm also the co-director of the Frida Center for Research on Violence Against Women and Children, housed at Simon Fraser University, and faculty at Capilano University in the School of Social Sciences. I'm joining you today from the unceded traditional and ancestral territories of the Coquitlam First Nation, and on behalf of AVA, which is a national organization, I want to begin by acknowledging that we encourage all Canadians and visitors to Canada to learn about the Indigenous peoples of the lands on which they live, work, or visit, and become engaged allies together. We, as Canadians, in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, respect the first self-determination of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and their rights and responsibilities in culture, languages, and the pursuit of wellness. Today is a very special webinar, and we're incredibly excited to share this with you. The focus is called End Violence Everywhere, Path to Justice, and we are joined by Cait Alexander, who blends her personal journey of survival with multifaceted career in the entertainment industry to fuel transformative advocacy. Based in LA, but hailing from Canada, Cait is the founder and CEO of End Violence Everywhere. She has built a groundbreaking platform offering direct survivor support, legislative reform, public awareness, and coalition-led community building. Cait, thank you so much for joining us today. It's such an honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate everyone being here. I can't see you. You can see me. So let's start with, there's a thank you. You want me to change the slides? And that'll come back at the end. There we go. So as aforementioned, I'm Cait Alexander. I'm the founder of End Violence Everywhere, a registered charity in Canada and the United States. And we support survivors of intimate partner violence, sexual assault, and families dealing with the impossible, femicide. And I am delighted to be here today. Today is not about me. Today is about you. So please utilize that Q&A throughout the entire presentation. I cannot stress enough that this is about conversation, that this is about community, that this is about communication, and we need to unite together. So please speak up. I'm very excited to be working with such astute and astounding individuals who care so much about the wellness and being of predominantly women and children who suffer mostly from intimate partner violence and sexual assault. And I founded the organization End Violence Everywhere, not on purpose. My first experience with the criminal injustice system, and I call it the injustice system in Canada because very often it does not provide justice. Very often it is re-traumatizing and an extension of abuse. So I founded the organization after experiencing sexual assault in my teenagehood and then an attempted murder in July 2021 in Toronto. Despite having photos and video evidence of the violence committed against me, my ex was let out on bail for $500 and proceeded to stalk me. If I had not moved down to the United States, very likely that I wouldn't be having this conversation with you right now. And what ended up happening was a stay of all 8 of his charges, and I have never actually had a criminal trial for my attempted murder. He still lives in Leaside in Toronto in the house he nearly tried to take my life in, or he nearly took my life in. And I just last Friday on Halloween finally finished the civil proceeding against him for 4 and some odd years later. So when we talk about paths to justice, it has to be a personal experience. It is a personal experience. It's not something that is necessarily, unfortunately, going to be found within the systems that have been created for us. It's, again, like I said, it's not the justice system. I call it the injustice system. We are actually, myself and 21 other plaintiffs are actually suing the federal government of Canada for infringing on our charter rights because of the Jordan's rule, the Supreme Court decision of Chapter 11B of the Charter rights that actually ended up staying my attempted murder. And this lawsuit is not about, there's a monetary component to it, but it's about advocacy. It's about serious systemic reform and change. And it's unprecedented. This hasn't been done before, but this is how, unfortunately, dangerous it's become in Canada. And this is not a doom and gloom webinar, but this is reality, and we need to deal with reality better. We're in 2025. We know right and wrong, and we need the systems that have been created ages ago to catch up to the current culture. So Eve does that. We provide trauma-informed end-to-end advocacy services. And the average user experience with Eve uh, starts with uh, generally reaching a survivor generally reaching out on social media, through our email, through our website, getting in touch with our advocacy team. And our advocacy team, what I noticed when I was going through my case for the last 4 years, that victim services, it's not very hands-on. There's not a lot of people who actually meet you where you're at and who make it a personal experience. The advocates or the organization's only available, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. That doesn't really do anything good for something that happens after those hours. And so our advocacy team works around the clock, and we have, private WhatsApp group chats with the survivors to ensure that they are met with a level of care that goes outside the standard 9 to 5 profile. We connect survivors with everything from legal aid, uh, the proper lawyers. We've provided food and housing with security issues that unfortunately affect the majority of survivors. We say there's always financial abuse in any domestic or any abusive situation. There is always some level of financial abuse, and so we've helped survivors help get jobs. Basically, everything that the survivor needs, we meet them exactly where they're at, because we understand that in order to heal from trauma, you have to have community. You have to have people that care, and survivors, as we say, they are the experts. We're actually publicly going to be declaring that the word survivor, the word victim, those are all, it has a connotation to it, a feeling for me that doesn't necessarily resonate. And we call survivors the experts because they are the experts of their situation. They're the experts of what their experience is. They're the experts on what they need, and we are trying to reframe this language throughout government advocacy, throughout public spaces, that survivors really, they know what they're talking about because they're the only ones that have lived through it. So we should listen to them. When we speak of resilience, I am honestly astonished every single day. We've helped hundreds and hundreds of women across Canada and the US get to safety, get to restore their faith in themselves and restore their faith in humanity. All survivors are resilient. There is not a survivor that I've met who is not incredibly brave. We really work with the the raw materials, the raw experience, and encourage survivors to constantly come forward because that's the only way that change will actually happen. It's As is kind of obvious, our mission is to eradicate gender-based violence using science, empathy, and systemic reform. Our advocacy, we also provide, so after the survivor does an intake appointment and is met, we, if appropriate for the survivor, we have a board therapist who provides at no cost eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy, which is EMDR, more colloquially known, and it has been revolutionary as far as helping people heal. I'm a huge proponent of it. That's actually the therapy that helped eradicate my PTSD. I first got EMDR in 2023 down here in the States, and it saved my life. Oh, hello. It saved my life, and I recognize, I have good insurance down here. It was actually very difficult to access it. And one of Eve's objectives is to scale up the accessibility for EMDR and utilize the science and utilize what we know to work and make it available for people. They use EMDR in Europe a lot, and trauma rates are down, crime is down. There's a lot of things that the Western world just doesn't do yet, and we're here to bring that to the US and Canada. So we've kind of gone over the heartbeat of Eve, what we do every day, the crisis intervention. I mean, I've been on the phone with Vaughan, Ontario police while they're trying to get weapons out of this woman's house that her ex was utilizing. He was on the run. She had nowhere to go. We got her a hotel for the night. The police were very grateful for that intervention. What we've actually proposed to the RCMP, OPP, everybody in between on all forces is to have an advocate on the scene of these intimate partner violence calls and these sexual abuse calls because the police are not necessarily trained properly to handle it. So we've done crisis intervention on the scene and it's been very, very effective. As I said, EMDR, and then I could raise $1 billion tomorrow. I could have the best specialists in the entire planet, but if we don't have laws that actually hold abusers accountable, there's no sense in any of that really. So we have a government outreach coordinator who just works with the government day in, day out for policy reform, and we are helping write bills. I'm very proud to say that as soon as the House of Commons sat, it's been, I think, close to 15 private members' bills that have been around intimate partner violence or sexual assault. So that's unprecedented. We haven't seen that before. Intimate partner violence actually became a election issue, a campaign matter for the first time as well. So it's working. This advocacy is working, and I hope that this inspires everyone here to continue to get involved in politics because if you don't mess around with politics, politics will mess around with you. We have to inspire the government, and there are amazing officials who do care. Not all of them, but there are amazing officials who do care and want things to be better. Is everyone with me? I can't see anyone. And I don't think I can actually see the Q&A. So, yeah, I can't see that. So if we could take a Sarah.
All is well, and there aren't any questions so far.
Perfect. Thank you. So understanding trauma, we throw that word around, and this is something that I've discussed many times before, is these words, the system is broken. Okay, well, what does that actually mean? Language is so important, especially when describing trauma, especially when communicating for the changes that we want. what is trauma? Trauma profoundly affects individuals. It's not the event itself, but it's the internal experience and how it reshapes emotional responses, mental health, and overall well-being. And trauma can last a lifetime. I volunteered on Skid Row for Giving Tuesday last year, and 90 95% of the women that we did their makeup, we worked with this amazing company down here in the States and provided food and, had a really amazing time. 98% of them are running away from intimate partner violence situations or sexual abuse in their childhood. And it just precipitates and becomes mismanaged because of the lack of access to proper trauma-informed therapy. And that is not those people's fault. It's scary. After I was nearly killed, I didn't have a home. I mean, I lost my stepson, my dog, my house, my relationship, and nearly my life in 24 hours. It was all over. And I I don't know how to articulate other than to say how fragile it is, regardless of resources, regardless of access, that anyone be in a traumatic situation because it changes you. And I'm so grateful for EMDR. I'm so grateful for the therapists that I've been able to find. I'm so grateful for the community for providing me with that healing experience. And it's also, as dark as trauma is, you can fully recover from it. It is something that it affects the nervous system and affects the body. Here we are. The nervous system, the amygdala, hippocampus, all of that primitive, not an involuntary reactive systems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system, those are things that we can't control if we are in trauma. Those, the fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, those are not experiences that we can decide in the moment. I'm more apt to be in a fight mode if something triggers me or upsets me. A lot of people freeze, a lot of people fawn, a lot of it's these are involuntary choices. The alligator brain becomes, as we call it, the alligator brain becomes so alive, and our prefrontal cortex is offline. And so when people have reactions to stimuli or to an experience, it's not it's not because they're choosing that decision. I recall July 31st, my ex had fled the scene. The SWAT team was surrounded the house. I was screaming. I've seen the body cam footage. I was screaming at the top of my lungs at the cops to go away. The cops were there to save my life, but my brain in that moment, being concussed and being through 4 hours of literal hell, could not compute that anyone was coming to save me. And so I was yelling at the people who were trying to help me. And that's a very common response that we see. And it's it's truly something that needs to be better understood. We're working at Eve, we're working with the police forces to help create trauma-informed responses and understand that this is not someone who's being hysterical, as the old horrible word would say, that this is someone whose brain is literally offline and they're reacting to the best of their ability because that's what their brain is saying will save their life. Your brain always wants to save your life. So in that understanding of how the brain works, that's how we've been able to actually identify ways to help people heal. And everyone has a different response. It's not unanimous. There are things that would upset one survivor that wouldn't upset another. And this is human based, actually. It's not just about survivors. It's human based. There are things that will bother certain people and they wouldn't bother others. And that's all about the window of tolerance. And when we understand what our window of tolerance is, we can then work with with EMDR and with therapists to make it better and fully recover. So I'd like everyone, and again, I can't see you. We've been working with our survivors on different breathing exercises, and the ones that we have found to be the most effective, and I'd like everyone to do this. I've been talking a lot, so please interject if you have anything to say. The breathing exercise that I have found to be the most relaxing is the 5-2-5 instead of the four. It was 4-4-6, I believe. So if everyone wants to right now, take a minute and so go five. So 5-4-3-2-1, hold for two, and then out for two. Uh, and then 5-4-3-2-1. This is something that we work with all of our survivors with. It actually can help you fall asleep too. If anyone has any sleep issues, those are very common with trauma. I have found this to be very, very, very relaxing. We use a lot of grounding techniques uh, as a part of our intake every single step of the way. Every time the survivor engages, we try to work with the physiology, with the body. The body keeps the score. I'm sure a lot of people have read that book or are aware of that book. The somatic experience is real, and we need to get better in the world at working with that because those are pathways to healing. We also, our incredible board therapist, Jennifer Kaplan, has created a program called Emotional Resilience Training. And I have learned so much from this woman. She is Canadian American, and she's just an absolutely outstanding, generous, beautiful human being who is just a wealth of knowledge. And so, if anyone has any water or any liquid that isn't hot, uh, what we can do right now is actually gargle. And that's gonna look crazy, but I'm used to that. So and this actually stimulates the vagus nerve, which is a nerve in the nervous system that connects all the way from your abdomen up into your brain. And gargling, it relaxes the polyvagal nervous system and helps everyone calm down. So if we have a survivor, I've seen it work. I've brought people back from panic attacks on Zoom 2,000 miles away. It's gargling instantly can reset the nervous system. Using cold temperature on any sort of pressure points on your wrists, on your neck, um, it helps the body relax, cools the heart rate down because when we're activated, our heart's beating a lot faster, which then becomes that sort of anxiety and loop cycle. So cold temperature immediately helps calm down. Head holding, so taking your any hand, what it doesn't matter which hand, putting on the back of your head and then on the front of your head and just holding. Our necks do so much for us and we need to treat them with kindness. This can be very soothing and instantly help people relax. You can interchange it. It actually might be a different experience because of if you switch the hands, might balance it out. And we look for eye contact with with the survivors. If people can't make eye contact, they're generally not a good candidate for EMDR. It's really important making eye contact, being able to connect with someone is very soothing for our nervous systems. And when people can't connect, it generally means that they're offline, that they're reactive instead of interactive. And so co-regulation happens with eye contact. We are working on another program with various ministries of health to help train nurses and frontline staff to co-regulate with individuals. I mean, the first time I went to the hospital, where seeing a Q&A, fun. Acceptance. Okay. Thank you, Brandon, for your question. I appreciate it. I am not familiar. Yeah, okay, so yeah, Dr. Sarah, I'd love for you to love for you to answer this. I am not a doctor. I am, I guess, a businesswoman. Sarah, do you want to go ahead and answer this?
My expertise is actually well outside of psychology, so I'm unsure.
Okay. I think that's a good question for Google. Acceptance commitment therapy. I feel like you know what? Let's plug this into Google. There's no shame in that. One second. Oops. Hold on. Let's get this question answered because I always like to learn new things. Art is a more rapid approach. Oh, I have heard of this. Okay. I think it's a newer one. I think one of my EMDR therapists got trained in it. Um, the key, I have heard of art. It is similar. Yes, and I think this does make sense to me that art is a faster way to do it. I have not actually experienced art there the acceptance commitment therapy or the accelerated resolution therapy. Um, but I think that it's I've heard good things about it from I do recall. Oh boy, sorry, screen. There we go. Um, I have I have heard that it is faster. Do you want, I don't, yeah, I can't mute you. Do you have experience, Brandon, if you're comfortable sharing, do you have experience with the art therapy? And why can't I see the Q&A? But I think art came after the accelerated resolution therapy came after EMDR, but this is actually great knowledge and something to look into. Um,
So someone
another
else, an anonymous attendee, has hopped in the chat and said ACT focuses on helping individuals accept difficult feelings and commit to actions aligned with their values, while EMDR is a trauma-focused therapy that uses bilateral stimulation to help reprocess distressing memories.
I see another question. In your opinion, how do you think someone could support a child who becomes dysregulated in public spaces? Thank you for that question, Julia. It's and this is fabulous. So the emotional resilience training that Jennifer has created, you can actually teach it to a 4-year-old. These are things that these are let me go back to that page. These are simple techniques that work on every human. I would try using, I don't know how old this child is, but using cold cloths on the wrists, work with things that are not necessarily something that needs to be a voluntary experience, but you know, ask if they would put something cold on their wrist. Try just working with eye contact and just say, hey, can you just look at me? Can you just connect with me? Can we just be here? And if that's possible, if they're willing to connect on that level, you might actually see them immediately take a breath. So I think asking questions with kids, again, without knowing the age of the child, say connect and ask them if they feel like their mouth is getting like well, a little bit wetter because if you have producing saliva shows that you're actually in a relaxed state. And so if there's a deep breath, it means that this nervous system is calming down. Worked with children 6 to 12. Okay, fabulous. My mom was an elementary school teacher, and so I actually learned a lot. She did meditation, she's usually grade 2, 3, and she did a lot of meditation with kids to help regulate and teach them, you know, these practices that we can implement it every single day. So I think cold temperature is a great way because it's something simple. Make it fun, you know, 6 to 12. If I you know those what are those things? Those the like the teething rings or something. They have like the Disney characters on them or something. Like if you have a freezer nearby and get them to put like Dory on their arm or something. I think that is kind of a great way to make it make it interactive because you always have to meet the kids where they're at, right? So I think that I would be really curious to see if, and I can send you these slides or send you more information on these really simple techniques that we use, but they work on human beings, and that's the beauty of it. Is this is this is affects every can affect every single person in a positive way. And I would make the eye contact, use the cold temperature. Gargling's fun. The kids might find that hilarious too, and it instantly works. If I'm in a bad mood or I just finished court stuff last week, get in the shower and gargle water, and it just completely relaxes me. So I think that's a great way to bring the kids back online in before then trying to ask maybe for some breath work as well. So I hope that answers your question, and I'm actually curious to see if this provides any sort of resolution for you and help the kids regulate. So, and it's so amazing to teach. This is one of our objectives at Eve is to work with youth, work with the younger people so that they grow up as able to regulate themselves. It's something that, and this might be counter to, you got it. Okay. Yeah. And if anyone, I will have my email shared at the end so I can share anything, Julie. I'm just watching in real time. Um, Okay. And Brandon says, thank you for your input. I'm sorry to, you're not interrupting. Don't worry. This is a conversation. I'm, presenting whatever, but this is about you. This is about our experience together. This is not about me telling, just spewing information. I spent a year in art after DV and I tried to stop, suffered unintended consequences. You swear by art. Okay. That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love to hear things that work, and I will bring this back to our team. Lived experience, again, you are the experts. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. If it's working for you, keep it in the repertoire. So I appreciate that, Brandon. If there's no other questions for this with this, then I will move on. I'm not sure. Can someone give me a time? How much are we good for time?
It's 11:32, so there's still plenty of time.
Okay, perfect. So we went over EMDR. Oh, and I think we have another comment. I love the comments. I love the conversation. You're curious to know about the program you started with the ministries. Okay, yeah. So we have entire decks. We're calling this the Amethyst Response Team. So another acronym, ART. Uh, we we have been working with different predominantly in Ontario and Alberta, but I will provide more information. And again, my email's at the end. So any follow-up where you want more information on a specific project that we're working on, I have decks and all of the information. So happy to share all of that. So we went over what therapies we were using and what EMDR actually is, and it's a psychotherapy bottom down. So what we say, there's what we consider top down and bottom up therapies, where when you're working from the bottom up, you're working from that nervous system, from that involuntary space, from the somatic upwards into the cognitive prefrontal cortex, sort of logic and reasoning place. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, work the the top down. So it's about thinking and thought process. And this is important, but often with trauma survivors, we can't even access that frontal logical part. We can't even the person is not even willing to make eye contact with a human being, let alone talk about their thought process. It's a big ask. And so EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy works from that involuntary place. And you don't have to relive and regurgitate your story and talk about it. It works with your brain and it works with the basic biology of almost every single human being. And so it's bilateral stimulation of the brain, which means your left and right hemisphere. And what happens with trauma is that memories get stored and they get on a loop cycle within the brain, which is why triggers happen. You see something, it reminds you of a bad situation, then you have this involuntary response to it. Your heart rate elevates, your pupils dilate, you might get angry, you might get scared. These are involuntary experiences. You can't control them, and they happen instantly. And in that moment, thinking about how to get out of that is probably not going to happen. So what EMDR it does is it mimics REM sleep, so the deepest level of sleep, and it just by simply stimulating both, you can do it through auditory, you can do it by just following the fingers. You actually get both sides of the brain to process the traumatic memory, go into kind of this REM sleep state, and effectively reduce, you don't forget, it's not an eraser. It doesn't make you forget the incident. It actually helps your brain process the memory like a normal memory so that it doesn't have such an effect on you. It like essentially lowers the emotional temperature in the room, which is why it works so well for survivors, the experts of trauma, because you don't have to remember every single detail. Your body remembers things that you can't even cognitively bring forward. And so this was discovered, Maria Shapiro. She went out, she's a psychotherapist who went out for a walk decades ago and was curious as to why she immediately felt better. She was disturbed by something, went out for a walk, and she's like, "Oh, I feel better." And then l through her, trial and error and experience, created EMDR, and it's being utilized now at such more than ever, but not as much as we need to have in Canada and the US. And that's what we're here for. It's a very in-depth protocol. It has to be done and performed with a safe therapist. You can use tapping, which in a bilateral way, we call it the butterfly hug, very synonymous with the Eve logo. But if everyone wants to cross your arms, doesn't matter which arm is on which, and slowly tap. This is bilateral stimulation. This is an extension of EMDR. You can also bilaterally stimulate this through auditory experience. So you don't have to, if someone is unable to connect with eye contact, you can have a sound here, sound here, sound here, sound here, and that can do the exact same, have the exact same experience. And different things work for different people. I've done EMDR with little paddles in person, and they vibrate and they go back and forth like this, which is pretty common. But I also, being a musician, love just the auditory experience. There's actually some cool EMDRs and bilateral stimulation sounds on Spotify and YouTube. So you can listen to those at any time. Use headphones, it usually works better. But this works, and this works with our biology. And that's why I'm such a huge proponent of it, because I want people to heal, and I want people to know that they can heal. And we don't have to rely on poor coping choices in order to be able to recover, and that it can actually get better. I I'm living proof of it. I mean, I had a traumatic brain injury, had was split open in three places. Sorry for the graphic. I have every reason to not have a functional life, and I do because of EMDR, because I worked with the biology, and I'm so amazed. Eve's been operable for the last 10 months. The trajectory of the survivors and the experts that we've been working with, it's just been absolutely miraculous to see. We work with men as well, but predominantly women who have just come from the depths of despair, go get jobs and go do things that excite them. So we really love this science and love what this can do for people. If there's no more questions about this, I will move on. So we talked a bit about this already, the top-down methods, where it's, cognitive thought process, the thinking, the cognitive behavioral therapies of, okay, where does my thought need to go? And that sort of standard, what everyone thinks about, oh, what do you think of therapy? Lying on the couch, um, scenario, and spewing your deepest, darkest thoughts, which is an important integrator for somatic therapies, for the bottom up therapies like EMDR. But for trauma, it's often not does not reach far enough. And that's normal and understandable. And part of our main messaging is that, and part of what I believe and live is your body is actually doing what it's supposed to do. The trauma responses and the reactions, and that's actually your brain doing its job is protect myself, protect me. What does that look like in those moments? It's not doing it, it's supposed to do that. It's just retraining it that the danger is over, that this happened in the past, and we are now here and able to be in this present moment. And that's what's miraculous about, working with the body, is that it has a memory, but it can be retrained. Our nervous system, our brains are plastic, they're malleable forever. I am not of the ideology that past a certain age, sure, it may be easier to learn new things when your brain isn't fully developed when you're 20, but we can relearn things and you know become different people at any decade. And I think that that's really important. And I think that that's something that needs to be shared far and wide. So I'm going to take a complete pivot here. And I know this slide might terrify people. I'm not here for that, but I understand the word, seeing the letters AI might freak everybody out. I get that. However, this is, we're either going to learn how to dance with the devil and make something good and utilize the technological advances that we have for good, or they're going to swallow us whole and eat us alive, and we're not going to, and we're going to be left behind. And so we are creating a one of a kind Eve AI. It's actually launching publicly tomorrow, soft launch, soft launch. Um, Eve AI. I cannot create, and no one on this earth can create or unfortunately can create an organization big enough to be able to reach every single survivor at every hour of every single day in a way that is comprehensive enough. It's not possible, unfortunately, with the amount of trauma and abuse that this world has. There's a question. I love it. All right. Sorry if this anonymous attendee, sorry if this is unrelated, but I have a question regarding how we process trauma immediately after the traumatic event. I know there's some evidence to show that playing Tetris immediately after a traumatic event reduces symptoms of trauma later in life. Okay, that research shows that it could be a mechanism related to disrupting the consolidation of visual and spatial memories by having an active engagement in something else. Have you personally seen or employed techniques as I've described in any great effect? If so, how helpful are these techniques? I mean, I love Tetris, but I have never utilized it for trauma, but it could actually make sense. It makes sense for me with the knowledge of the nervous system and how the brain works, that sorting out in a patternistic way, sorting out and playing the game, as I'm sure everyone knows what Tetris is, would actually help the brain sort out memories. I do know that that's really interesting. That might be a fun little social experiment and something that I can look more into. I do know that they brought up an amazing point that catching trauma, uh, interrupting trauma early on is the best way to reduce anxiety, depression, PTSD, all of the general mental ailments that come naturally and understandably with having lived through trauma. It's I do know that catching it early on, and this is another objective of ours at Eve, is to actually create survivor spas, if you will, safe, protected areas that help treat survivors immediately after the trauma, places where survivors can come. We have programs that are 4 to 5 days in length where EMDR is introduced. I mean, I guess playing Tetris might be one of those things as well. And we start working with the brain as early as possible within the time frame of the traumatic incident, because the earlier we catch it, the better we have to interrupt that traumatic memory from getting locked inside the nervous system. Um, I'm slightly tangential because actually I think this is important. A lot of experts, survivors have chronic pain, have un and un unexplained chronic pain, unexplained shoulder ache, neck ache, whatever. It doesn't, and it doesn't have to be major. It doesn't have to be, an autoimmune disorder. A lot of that is trauma based. So what the body will do is take this traumatic memory and this pain and go, okay, I can't have this in here, so I'm going to just stick it in my shoulder. And it sends it into the nervous system, and that pain lives in the nervous system. And so we've actually discovered, and our therapist just got trained in it, we can actually, for any chronic pain, we can use EMDR. There's a protocol for it now, and we've I've had it happen with my situation with my ex, my right shoulder for about a year would just I couldn't even move a mouse. It was unexplainable, no reason. Did protocol for EMDR for pain, haven't had a problem. The pain and the trauma lives inside of the nervous system, and the body will move it away to, your shoulder. It's less important than your vital organs, right? So it'll move it into different parts, and medicine is not going to help that. I mean, obviously pain medication just masks the problem. So we can actually, everything is nervous system based, and if we can heal the nervous system, we can recover from the things that ail us. And so that's really interesting. And the nice part is, if we do are able to catch if we are able to catch the traumatic experience and the traumatic integration early on, we can prevent autoimmune disorders from happening. We can prevent certain cancers from happening. We can prevent a shortened lifespan. It's very real. And so, aside from working with the hospitals and working with the police forces for the co-regulation, on one of our other, we're calling it the Amethyst projects, our other projects is creating the survivor spa, where we can treat people quickly, efficiently, and prevent them from having PTSD, prevent them from having an anxiety and depressive disorder, prevent them from substance abuse, which is also a coexisting traumatic coping mechanism. So we are all about catching trauma early. And that's why working with the hospital systems, I mean, what did they do? I went to Sunnybrook, head was split open, they fixed me up. Thankfully, none of my bones were broken, and they sent me on my way. My physical injuries were taken care of, but I could not figure out, I couldn't even eat. So there's no system to actually properly address dealing with trauma other than on a physical way. And so we're really trying to understand what people need in those moments so that we can prevent people from, picking up a bottle, using a drug. We can prevent people from having to take, copious amounts of pharmaceuticals. We can prevent people from taking, being unhoused or not being able to have relationships with other people. It's We're trying to get ahead of that, and that's a net benefit for the community, the governments and all of their spending, and it's a net benefit for the family system. It's a net benefit for the individual. We're looking for things that are win 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 win, and right now we just deal with everything in the aftermath and spend billions of dollars doing it. IPV alone costs Canada like $9 billion or something since 2015. Just IPV, just dealing with the justice system, just dealing with the hospital care system, it just drains. So what can we do to prevent these things from happening in the future? And this actually circles us right back into AI. We are creating an Eve advocate. In our advocates are the most gentle, kind, compassionate, loving people I've ever met, patient as well. We're creating effectively a bot that acts in our voice, acts in the advocate's voice, that is available at no cost to the survivor 24/7, and we'll talk survivors through de-escalation techniques, safety planning, connect to local resources. We serve survivors across Canada and the US. I don't know every single shelter. I don't know but the internet does. And so we are creating this advocate that is available to anyone um, in the world. We're starting with Canada and the US, but will be available to anyone in the world, and we'll be able to work with that person. If you plug in any language that's related to abuse into ChatGPT, it will not connect. It will disconnect. It won't allow you. So we have developers that have actually circumvented that and have created a safe, again, we don't take any data. We ask the survivor not to give any personal information, not their name, no date of birth, none of that. And we're launching it tomorrow, so everyone will invited into the soft launch. We've done a lot of beta testing with it, and it's been really effective. Uh, AI is 20,000 million times smarter than anybody on this call. Hate to say it, but it's true. And we are creating something that's going to be able to be safe and hopefully help people get out of situations that are dangerous. It's not a replacement for humans, it's an additional tool. And we're really excited about this because this means that at 3 o'clock in the morning, if one of our survivors is having a panic attack, they'll be able to at least communicate with something that will be able to help them regulate and help them have techniques or, put a note or organize something logically for them. And it's been such an asset to see this over the creation of it, and I'm really excited about being able to, bridge the gaps between the technological world and the people world, and do this in a safe way. We obviously have informed consent. There's nothing, we don't store any information. It does not exist. We have to make this safe. If I will not do anything that is not safe, that does not benefit the survivor. This is about survivors. And we have a question. Is there a date this AI system? So we're having, and thank you so much for all your questions. We're having a soft launch tomorrow, which is November 5th, I believe. And it will just live on the Eve website. We'll get all that information at the end. Soft launch. What we're hoping with the soft launch is just to get some real-time user information, and then be able to ensure that our product, it's a product that Eve AI is going to be able to serve the community at large. And then we'll be doing in about a month a larger hard launch, and have it be a public of public knowledge. And as I said earlier, I can raise $1 billion tomorrow. I can hire 2,500 advocates, but it's never going to be able to meet every single person's need at every single hour of the day. And so this is something that is an extension of that care, an extension of that arm, and it's something that actually might feel a little bit safer. Uh, Talking to a human being when you're in a state of trauma can be very, very overwhelming, even if they're there to help. Talking to your own phone with a trauma-informed information database effectively might be a little bit gentler. And the nice part about AI is it's accessible. You can use it for every most everybody can access it as long as you have your phone, and most people have a phone now. So there's another question. The hardest part about trauma care is that there's not a one size fits all approach. Exactly. And the nice part is AI doesn't have any feelings yet. It doesn't have any feelings. So it's not going to take it personally if you get mad at it. It's not, you can express yourself in the way that you need to express yourself. And it has it's the World Wide Web. It has more information than any of us, any single human being will ever be able to access. And so it's not a replacement for where I'm not firing my staff. I love them way too much. We are adding this as an additional tool, as an extension of our love and our care. And it's something that we see being very useful for therapists, something that we see being very useful for hospital systems. Um, and again, sometimes, and we have to look at generationally too. I'm a millennial, and everyone younger than me, we're just used to being on in the tech space. It's just a part of our culture. And so we need to meet where the next generation is going to be at, and it's going to be online. There's nothing you can do about that. And so creating this is to help create preventative or prevent situations from even occurring. So If that no one has any further questions on that. So yes, it's launching tomorrow, soft launch November 5th. It will be on the Eve website. And we have an incredible tech team who has created this. They're absolutely fabulous people. And it's all with consent. There's strong policies in place. Again, no sharing of data information, and we ask that no one put their, their personal name into it, but describe the situation. And you can train the bot in your with your own needs. And if there's things that you say, "Oh, I don't like this," or "Don't use this word," the bot will stop using that word. I've messed around with this. I've put in like 400 different scenarios. It's pretty incredible, and I'm very, very excited about it. So that effectively, if there's any questions or any further conversations that anyone wants to have, I am here for it. We at Eve, myself, I believe everyone on this call just want people to be safe. It's really simple. And unfortunately, simple things are not necessarily easy in this world. And so we want to create safe spaces, but also live the truth of dignity, respect, survivors being the experts, and keep working with the government, which is not going away. So we have to work with them and figure out how to get them to understand so that we can make things better in the future. And if there's anything that anyone needs, our email below this goes directly to me. Most of our social media is Unviolence Everywhere. Pretty easy to find. Spelling of my name's present. And if I'll take any questions, comments, and if something pops up, just shoot me an email. Usually pretty responsive within 24 hours. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for participating. And can you send us the slides? Yeah, I can send the slides for sure. Um, I'm really excited to, Julia, if you wouldn't mind sending me an email with any of the techniques that you've used, if you're comfortable with that. I'm just, again, really here to have a conversation, really here to learn as well, and share in the knowledge so that we can make things better for everyone. So appreciate it.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that wisdom with us, your work, your lived experience. It was so inspiring to listen to, and it made for such a special webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
While we leave just a couple more minutes for people to put any questions they might have in the chat, I was wondering if you could share a little bit with us about kind of what helped you find your voice both as a survivor and a public advocate.
Oh, thank you, Sarah. Anger, hell of a lot of anger after my case was stayed. I really didn't know what to do. And the only thing that coming from the entertainment industry, having had a lot of my life be a public entity anyways, the only thing I knew how to do was to do what I knew how to do, and I called my agents and I just said, listen, this is the truth. I am so sick and tired of not living honestly because here I am. I mean, I was nearly killed July 31st, 2021. End of September 2021, I was shooting a Canadian Living editorial with, you know, wounds on my head still. My feet were still swollen from the violence, and I could barely fit my feet into the heels. And I just remember being so disgusted, not at anyone in particular other than my abuser, but at the fact that I wasn't going to be able to be honest about what was actually going on in my life, and that public image or the expectations were just to bounce back and make it all okay. And I really couldn't live like that anymore. It felt so disingenuous, and it felt like such a lie, and I hated that. And so I I was asked by some members of provincial parliament in Canada or in Ontario who are friends of mine, and we talked about it, and they said, when I do my peace bond, because that's all I ever got for what he did to me. I said I think I'm just gonna, call the news and we'll just go from there. And it snowballed into all of this. It was not there was no intention of having an organization. There was no intention of it becoming what it's become. And I feel lucky for that because I know there's so many survivors who aren't believed. And so for me, it's been really, really gratifying, and it has been my path to justice, to have the community support, but I recognize that that's not necessarily the norm. And I want everyone to believe survivors, and I want, just because there isn't physical evidence doesn't mean it didn't happen. And it really, it really bothers me that anyone could not believe a survivor. And so the anger and the rage that I had about for the 3 years after the stay of charges, after, he just was he's never been to jail. He's never had a single consequence other than, financial consequences. And it's, I needed to be alchemized. I needed the anger to be alchemized into something that was positive. And thankfully I was listened to, and thankfully I was believed over and over and over again. And I shared all the photos and the videos of everything that happened that night. And I think in that, I've always known this as an artist, there's vulnerability. Vulnerability is genuinely your strength. And in being vulnerable like that, it opened up, it started everything. I wouldn't be here if I didn't take that, take what I know to be true in a creative sense and make that, how to live. And, there's days that it's hard. There's days where you don't want to talk about it, or you don't want it to consume you. But I still do EMDR. I still have an amazing team, but I still also shut it off and say we're not living in this space today. But this has been freeing, liberating beyond belief to be able to share everything publicly. It's been so comfortable. and and I wish that for all people. And that's not everyone's desire either. That's not for everybody, but for me it was a thing that it was being honest publicly was the only way to exist, because now I show up as I am, and nobody can question that. And that is my justice.
Thank you for that. That's such an inspiring answer. And it also, I think, shows incredible strength on your part to be able to channel something like what you've experienced and lived through into something so positive, both for yourself and for a lot of other survivors. So thank you, both
Mhm.
for today and for your work. There are a couple people in the Q&A just saying thank you so much and that they're honored to be here today to hear your story, as are we. For the attendee who noted the email question, there is one right on the screen for you on the bottom left-hand side. And if there are no other questions, I just want to again extend a giant thank you from Ava's side and also from me just for such a fabulous webinar and also for sharing this time with us. Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Thank you everyone so much. Emails there, and be safe and listen to yourself. You're the expert.